thought it would be a really lovely gesture to send a message of memoriam and also celebration of this remarkable man's life, to light up the City Hall rather, the mountain, and St. George's Cathedral, the Arch for the Arch, in his absolutely synonymous purple bishop's color. And so that's what we are doing. And we hope in a small way that when this image of these Cape Town icons go around the world, that it helps for everyone to remember this remarkable man and celebrate his life.
William Gumede is an associate professor at Wits University. He's also the executive chairperson of the Democracy Works Foundation and joins us from Johannesburg. William, thank you so much for coming on to this news hour to honor one of South Africa's greatest people. The Arch, as anyone who remembers him, he was really somebody who spoke truth to power. He was also someone who really didn't mince his words. He was very quick-witted. He loved having a good laugh, and he didn't hold back when he was critical. What was it about him that endeared him to so many people and that helped him become the man that so many South Africans knew and loved?
No, thank you for having me. I think, the most important thing about him, he was a very caring person. And he certainly was one of the most emotionally intelligent leaders that's come out of the continent, in our times. So he's a very empathic person. So even in his criticisms that he often, and his criticisms were tough and they were harsh when he did not agree, it was always done, with a bit of a chuckle and with a smile. While he was also a very serious person at the same time.
And those criticisms were not just against South Africa, against the apartheid regime. He also took on the current ANC government, former President Jacob Zuma, but he was also very vocal about injustices in other parts of the world. The first thing that comes to mind is Israel's treatment of Palestinians, the war in Iraq, even those in his own Anglican clergy. Why were these causes so important to him?
For him, injustice, whether it's in South Africa or in Africa or around the world, he spoke truth to power. Even during the apartheid era, I experienced him, of course, in the 1980s when I was a student leader. He would be very critical not only of the apartheid government and its leaders, but also critical, of the ANC leadership if they messed up. In the post-1994 era, he has been critical of the ANC also in power. I mean, even of Nelson Mandela. I do remember when Mandela came to power in 1994, and Tutu was very critical about Mandela and the ANC government actually taking the same benefits in power that apartheid government and its leaders had. And Tutu was saying, given the fact that the majority of Black South Africans are poor, it is really inexplicable for the ANC to have in power actually take the same kind of benefits. But also outside South Africa, I mean, he spoke truth to power to the US, with the US's interventions abroad. He spoke truth to power even more recently against China, when China refused or put pressure on the South African government to have the Dalai Lama come to South Africa.
And William, during his time in post-apartheid South Africa, he also headed the TRC, a difficult time for a lot of South Africans having to listen to those stories where we were holding people accountable. And during that time, he also faced some criticism. One of those was that he didn't hold white leaders accountable, especially those complicit in apartheid. They almost had a blanket amnesty. However, when it came to people like Winnie Madikizela Mandela, he was quite critical towards her. There are many South Africans that do feel let down by the Arch. Why is this?
The difficulty about a truth commission is you cannot cover everything that you ideally want, because and so on. I mean, he was, Tutu particularly, I think, was very disappointed, in Black South Africans, who did not behave according to his moral standards, clear moral standards. That was a very important aspect of him. I mean, he was also, of course, critical of white South African leaders. And the disappointment, of course, of our Truth Commission is we didn't get the full truth. I mean, a month ago, a former apartheid, the last white apartheid leader, de Klerk, died, and he didn't give us the information of what happened during apartheid. And secondly, we also did not hold many of the apartheid leaders accountable. But that was our agreement to end apartheid. That was the apartheid deal, that there will be information, but that we won't have Nuremberg type of trial. So Tutu's hands were really tied during the Truth Commission because of the 1994, the settlement that ended apartheid.
Well, Tutu, South Africans have always looked to him, much of the world has looked to him as being a moral compass. In the last few years, South Africa has lost those stalwarts that brought the country through some of our darkest times. Nelson Mandela, Ahmed Kathrada, George Bizos, and that's just to name a few. Who guides South Africa now? Who do we look up to as a light, as a voice of reason in a country that is still very much divided along racial lines, that has gross amounts of corruption, that is still fighting injustice? Who do we look to?
I mean, Tutu really, his death brings the end of an era of the larger-than-life leaders that we have in South Africa, anti-apartheid leaders. And the thing is, we've been so fortunate in South Africa to have the likes of Tutu, the likes of Nelson Mandela, Albert Luthuli, those kind of really moral leaders. Right now, we need those leaders more than ever. And I think the challenge now for us, for our generation, is to now foster, is for, the kind of leadership, the Tutu kind of leadership, to step up. They are there in South Africa, but to step up now more than ever, we need that kind of leadership because we're a country that has lost our moral compass. We've the country with systemic corruption, self-enrichment in government. We have opportunists who are politicians now, populists who are politicians, and so on. So we really now need a new generation of people of leaders who step up. And I think the nice thing about Tutu and Nelson Mandela and so on is that they have given us a standard of leadership that we can all now aspire to and hold our current leaders accountable.
And hopefully that's a standard of leadership that we will be able to go back to. William Gumede, thank you so much. Live to us there from Johannesburg.